site to meet with a client, and we're going to be discussing their SCCM and Intune environment. We've been in talks with this customer for a couple of weeks now, just getting an understanding of what they're after and where they're at in their modern workplace journey. I figured I'd take you guys along for the ride and show you their environment. The customer's having issues actually getting always on VPN working. There's some applications that they need help packaging, and really they just want to understand, how does Intune work in the real world? You know, commercially, how does it work? Without reading Microsoft documentation, and you know, there's best practice, but then there's the real way of doing things. So that's my job today, but I'm pretty excited about this piece of work because the client has taken time to really understand what Intune does, and they have an understanding of Intune's limitations. So it's very common for customers to reach out to us and expect Intune to do everything. They've watched a video on Microsoft's website and they've gone, wow, this looks great. We're going to pay you to deploy it. And when there's issues or there's niggling, just differences, you know, it's different to SCCM. There's a limitation. It can't do things the same way they might be used to. They get very frustrated. So thankfully, these guys have taken it upon themselves to upskill themselves and get a really good foundational understanding of it. And we're going to come in and review that and improve things. There's some apps they want packaged, which I know are going to be a pain because they've done some themselves, and everyone ticks off the easy ones. They do the easy ones themselves and they give the hard ones to us. So it shouldn't be a problem. We'll get it done. I'm probably going to screen record some things of their environment, and I guess it's really to show you what we do. So what do we actually do? You know, using the word Intune is one thing, but what do clients pay us for? How do I make a living? What value do I provide? Just thought I'd show you if there's any value in this, and if you like these sort of videos, let us know in the comments and we'll keep making more. Thanks, guys. Before we get started, just on a little side note, it is always good when you get on site at a new customer and they just have a really nice monitor set up for you. It's one cable, you plug in, you're on the network, you've got an external display. Perfect. It's always a really good indication that the customer spends some good money on their IT, and this one was no exception. But let's continue. Okay, so I mentioned that the customer had an existing Intune deployment. Primarily it's focused around Android and iOS devices at the moment. For the last couple years, they've been trying to get more and more Windows machines in there. They've got hundreds of Windows devices. So the 34 devices we can see here, they're mostly just test machines or pilot users. They've been having issues getting the hybrid AD joint working. This customer has a few legacy on-prem applications that need AD authentication to work. Sometimes we can reconfigure that application to use more modern types of authentication, and that means we can do Azure AD, which is what Microsoft are recommending. Unfortunately, in this instance, hybrid AD is going to be the only way to go. So we created a hybrid AD policy. We configured it as the customer wanted, and we needed to look at what was preventing the hybrid join working previously. So there was some issues with a few applications that were being deployed during the hybrid process, and there was no ability to build a hybrid machine outside of the office where there's no line of sight to the domain controller. We used the Palo Alto Global Protect. We reconfigured the client, we wrote a custom script to deploy it, and it essentially allows pre-Windows logon VPN connectivity. So we establish a VPN connection during the hybrid autopilot build, and then on the first logon, that machine can talk to the domain controller, it can authenticate the user, and we can log in as if the device is in the office. So it's really, really cool. It's the first time we got this working for a customer where we can do hybrid build machines outside. We're quite proud of that. I'll give you a demo, but I'm going to do a voiceover on some of the troubleshooting that we faced. There was many days of troubleshooting what was broken. If you're in Intune now, if you're an Intune engineer, you know that hybrid is a bit janky. There's some issues, it's not perfect. So that was our job. We had to come in, iron all the problems out, and get them to a point where they can start rolling out new devices. So we've got the first build. And we can see that there's an application error, there's an Azure AD error, and I need to start troubleshooting why did this fail. So the first things first, I looked up the application error, and we can see that as per Microsoft's documentation, installation state 3 means that it's completed, but installation state 4 means that there has been an error. So now we need to find what application is that and why is it failing. At this point, I've identified the app that's causing the timeout. It was the global VPN app. So I've just modified the deployment script and made a few changes. We've done another deployment, and the customer actually complained that the deployment was taking far too long, 2, 3, 4 hours. Sometimes it was just timing out. So I'm using the get autopilot diagnostic script here, coupled with reviewing Event Viewer to try to build a timeline of what is the machine doing, how long is each step taking, and then narrowing in on each step that seems to be timing out and trying to rectify that. Here we have Hello for Business being set up, the VPN's configured. It looks like the machine's starting to get some of the group policies that is on the legacy domain, but the deployment's still taking too long. So there's more Event Viewer troubleshooting. I'm looking at time zone settings, the get autopilot diagnostic script. That really builds the timeline. So we're still narrowing down each step and trying to fine tune that as best we can. We faced a new error here where the machine was failing to join the on-prem domain, and some troubleshooting needed to be done there. It turned out to be the Intune connector, and there were some errors there that were resolved with an uninstall, reinstall of that service. Now it was time for the final reset, and we rebuilt the machine for the last time. This deployment only took about an hour. We minimized how many forced applications were pushed through during the hybrid build. We saw that finished there. I was just ensuring that some custom applications that we packaged were working, and the machine was hybrid and Azure AD joined. What we're looking at here is the custom application that we built for the customer. The program is called Tech1, and Tech1 has a .NET version 2 dependency. Windows 11 doesn't have .NET version 2 installed, so we needed to think of a way that the customer can, that the staff member sitting at their desk can open up their machine, open up company portal, and they press install Tech1, and .NET gets installed first, the machine reboots, and then Tech1 is installed. Without .NET, the installation of Tech1 will fail. So SCCM, we can push a task sequence. That task sequence can include reboots, and it supports the multi-step process a lot more than Intune does. Within Intune, we just need to be creative. That's what we did here. And I'm going to show you the script and how it all works. All right, here's a look behind the curtain on that application and how we're getting Tech1 deployed. Tech1 has that .NET requirement, so this is step 1. Scroll down here, we can see the script that we've put in. Essentially, really simple. We're creating a new folder in the C drive called temp. We're copying a script, a PowerShell script that we've written, and putting it into that directory. We're then executing PowerShell with a hidden window and running that script we've just copied into the temp directory. We're going to sleep this process for 200 seconds just to give .NET some time to install, and then we're going to remove that script out of the C temp that we just copied from up here. So we're going to remove that just to make this a really clean install. The .NET install script, really simple, and yeah, once that runs, we end up getting .NET version 2. Now, Tech1 is a bit more complicated, but in this instance, we're quite lucky. It's pretty simple. We're essentially just installing 7 MSI files in the one step. So each one will run through, they'll get installed. We've got different parameters depending on what applications these are. And within Intune, when we do the detection, we're always going to use the MSI that's in the last step. The reason why is we're not going to get to step 7 unless step 3, as an example, is successful. So it's pretty safe to say that once this becomes installed on the machine, the rest of them have installed successfully too. So we're always going to use the last MSI code as the detection method. The final step is just putting a desktop shortcut in for the users in the public directory, only because Tech1 and this particular shortcut actually links back to a network location, and that's a custom shortcut, so we copy that in for them too. So wrapping things up, here's the test machine. Once it's all done, we can see that it's been added into Intune. We have the applications that we packaged and deployed all being installed. We still need to troubleshoot why Microsoft Remote Desktop's not deploying. I think that's going to be a pretty simple one. Now that the legacy store has been deprecated, I think I just need to put that app into the new Microsoft Store. But next steps we're going to do, and this may be for the next video, I have another application to package for the customer. This one, we're converting a bunch of our group policies that deploy registry settings. There's some ODBC connectors that need to be set up. Really complicated. This one's going to be a lot of fun. I'll probably film that and share that with you if there's any interest. Thanks, guys.